This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim pass the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Knick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with my man Andy, and we're going to talk about tonight's game versus the Chicago Bulls. The third time in 2 weeks, the Knicks and the Bulls are going to face off. We'll see if the Knicks can respond and rebound from that loss to the Toronto Raptors. But before I get to that, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to let you know there's a link. There's 2 links in the description of this video. One is for tickets to the Knicks vs. Raptors Martin Luther King Day event, or game, not event. You know, see if the Knicks can get that loss back. And you can be in attendance, ladies and gentlemen, with NBKFam, of course. So if you're interested, please make sure you check out the link in the description of the video and, get you some tickets. Join us for the Knicks vs. Raptors. And, have a good time. And then that game is on January 16th. And then, of course, we have the Knicks versus Wizards in Washington, D.C., where you can come join us as well. There's a link there for that game. So make sure you check it out, ladies and gentlemen. As soon as this video is over, go check out those links and join us for those events. Andy, what's popping with you, bro? How you feeling?
What up, Sam? Happy to be back. It's a pleasure, like always. I was so busy before Christmas, at work. I went back to basketball, so a couple of shows I missed because I was, on the basketball court. So, like you said, before when we, went online, it's so refreshing. I was so happy. I'm like, I'm wearing 2 knee braces, but I'm, so happy to be back on the court and nail a couple of shots a game. So it's really, really cool, being back on the court.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you're back on the court. It's always great to get back on the court and play after you've been injured for a little while. You know what I mean? So I'm happy to see, or happy to know, that you're back on the court. What was your thoughts, Andy, on the Knicks loss to the Raptors?
Well, first of all, I know that the Knicks fan base was really, really unhappy about the loss. Only thing I was unhappy about is that we lost versus an Eastern Conference team and to a division rival. Those losses, I always, say that they count as double games because, the Raptors get an edge over you and you lose, not only in the Eastern Conference, but you give a W to your opponent. So it's like it counts for 2, as I always say.
Right.
About the game itself, I still love that we were, competing in that game. It wasn't like a blowout. We can easily pinpoint the mistakes we made to correct them and get a W in this game tonight. So, I wasn't happy that Randall missed that shot, or we had that defensive lapse here and there, or we let Siakam score, over 50, right? But those are things that you can pinpoint, try to adjust, and next game shouldn't happen.
Right.
Meanwhile, last season we had games that we were totally out of it, and I hate those kind of games. This game we were in it. Sometimes a few bad plays, of course, disrupt the offense, the defense, and stuff like that. But I still think the Knicks are on a good path to, for example, get a W today. And, going back, around the schedule in the near future, I think they can still go on another win streak.
Yeah, I think so too. Obviously tonight's game is going to be tough. The Toronto Raptors are always tough. They match up with us well. They play that physical type of defense. They were vacillating back and forth between a zone and man. They have a lot of length around the paint area. So that's a tough game for the Knicks. I'll say this. Last year, that might have been a blowout, the way the game was played last night or the other night. That game might have been a blowout. The Knicks might have been blown out in that game. I've watched too many times when the Knicks play the Raptors and they just have a difficult time handling their defense and the physicality of their defense and the way the Raptors are able to get, the Raptors get their hands in the passing lanes. They get a lot of deflections and those type of things. And the Knicks always struggled against them. No excuse because the win was there for the taking. You know what I mean? They didn't execute down the stretch. But now they play Chicago. They've just beat Chicago twice. And Chicago's and after one of their losses to the Knicks, there was turmoil in the locker room and all that kind of stuff. So, they're kind of in flux right now with the way things are going on. They can be coming in desperate as well. Toronto was desperate, right? They had lost 6 in a row. They needed to get a win. Chicago, they just got a win, but they still might be feeling desperate, especially since they're playing a team that just beat them twice at home. You know what I mean? Do you think there's going to be a little extra oomph on this game from Chicago?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually expecting to split the games in Chicago because it's
Me
really
too.
hard to get 2 Ws in a row in an opposite gym and stuff like that. So that's why those back-to-back games. I was actually thinking that NBA is scheduling those games so they can split the games as far as the win and loss columns. But listen, for me, I think the Chicago Bulls are really, really bad chemistry wise. That I think that locker room is unfixable. I think they need to make moves. And me personally, I'm putting the blame on Zach LaVine on the turmoil that they have in that team. Zach LaVine is a great player. He can score he can get his buckets and stuff like that, but he's not a winning player as far as I see him. He's a player that can play in Minnesota and Sacramento, go for his, doesn't matter about the win and loss thing for the team as far as I see. The rest of the team maybe not, but if you have one guy like that, it's easy to start bad habits and bad stuff on the whole team. So I saw, because, and I'm saying this, I'm mentioning Zach LaVine because I see Knicks fans mentioning him to get him on the Knicks,
Right.
and I'm not a fan of that. I would rather seek a little bit less quality players, but that can fill out this team that we have without losing any major pieces.
Would you trade for DeMar DeRozan? Because we had that discussion. Me and Tony had that discussion. Would you trade for DeMar DeRozan?
Listen, Sim, I would, if it would be a flip situation, I would even trade for Zach LaVine, right? If I would, for example, be able to trade players that we don't use, Evan Fournier, Cam Reddish, even D-Rose, that will make basically the money match. So if you trade bench guys that you're never going to use this season and you get a better quality player, even if you have to flip them in the offseason or something like that and get better pieces, I think you have to do that. But if you ask me if I have to choose between DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, I'm going for DeMar DeRozan 100 times out of 100.
Right. And that's what we were talking about the other day. If you're going to me, I'm in agreement with you. I'd rather use some of the players that's not in the lineup, not in the rotation, to bring in a rotation guy. You know what I'm saying? Because Tom Thibodeau's using 9. We know he'll go 10. Right now he's happy with 9, but I think he'll go 10 if he has a player that he feels fits in. And that small forward wing position is right there, open within that rotation, I think. And if we could get away with moving picks and guys that were not playing, I'm all for it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm saying that maybe there's a player around the league, that Tibbs could use, and we can just move pieces that he's not going to use.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, I'm all for that. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Quentin Grimes is again questionable. All right. Obi Toppin, of course, we know is out. For the Chicago Bulls, you know Lonzo Ball is out. Also, Alex Caruso is out for the Chicago Bulls. And let me tell you something, that's a relief for me, man. He gets on my nerves. He's such a gnat. I mean, he's a really, really good defensive player. So I'm not downplaying his ability. I don't want his ability to go against the Knicks because he really gets on my nerves with his defense and the way that he makes plays happen. He's out with a right something sprain. I can't even pronounce it. It's ACROMIOCLAVIQULAR. That's what he's out with. And he's also in concussion protocol. That's Alex Caruso. Derrick Jones Jr. is out with a left ankle sprain. Goran Dragic is probable for tonight. Javonte Green is doubtful. All right, but for the Knicks, Quentin Grimes being questionable, I think last game I was able to see the difference between Quentin Grimes being on the floor and not being on the floor. You know what I mean? With the defense that he brings to the team. Were you able to see that, Andy?
Yeah, well, for me, the difference was really clear. And not to this Emmanuel Quickly's game, because he had a really good game. He was playing more off the ball. He was taking shots. He was making shots. So I was quite happy with his game. But still, I think he's not a defensive factor like Quentin Grimes is. And that was visible for, I'm not saying that he would stop, Pascal Siakam. But I think he would cause way more problems than IQ did on the defensive end.
Right. I believe so as well. And, part of the reason is because he's just a little bit longer than IQ. Right. And the Raptors, I mean, Scotty Barnes starting at the shooting guard spot at 6'8". I mean, they got had a lot of length over there. So definitely Quentin Grimes his defense was missed out there on the floor. We'll see if he's playing tonight. He's questionable. I don't think that means he's definitely going to be out. Right? They'll probably test it out, see what it looks like game time. So I'm taking that questionable tag as a game time decision. We've seen plenty of times with the Knicks and all across the league, someone is questionable early in the day, and then you turn on the game and they're on the floor. But assuming that he's out, the Knicks starting lineup would be Jalen Brunson, Emmanuel Quickly, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. And for the Chicago Bulls, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Vucevic. And herein lies the problem. Now, Zach LaVine is 6'5". Emmanuel Quickly is 6'2", 6'3". So, I mean, the height difference isn't as bad. Although Emmanuel Quickly versus the Raptors, he was guarding, what's his name over there, point guard. And then they had Jalen Brunson guarding Hernan Gomez because Hernan Gomez barely shoots the basketball. So that's how they dealt with that matchup. Tonight with the Chicago Bulls, everyone on the floor is going to shoot the basketball. So I'm assuming Jalen Brunson just goes ahead and he's guarding Kobe White, Emmanuel Quickly on Zach LaVine, R.J. Barrett on DeMar DeRozan, Randle, Patrick Williams, and Mitchell Robinson on Vucevic. Right, that's the way that I'm seeing the lineups. Do you think there will be anything different? And then obviously if Quentin Grimes plays, he'll be guarding Zach LaVine. I thought he did a great job on Zach LaVine the last two games they played.
Yeah, what I would say that, like you said, the size difference, the height difference, maybe it's not that bad, right? But we got to say that Zach LaVine shoots the ball after a really high jump, right? That jump shot is with a really high release.
Right.
And that's gaining another couple of inches over quickly. So he might be literally, helpless versus, Zach Levine's mid-range game.
Hmm.
And what we got to say that Levine scoring versus the Knicks while Grimes was on the court was on fast breaks, on stops, on getting easier positions helped by the team. It wasn't like he went one on one on him and scored easily. Meanwhile, here I think with the mid-range game that Levine presents, I think he's going to have a way easier task to score when he's going to be matched up versus Quickly.
Yeah, I definitely agree there because, like you said, his ability to jump over quickly is going to
Yeah.
be, that could be problematic. I think quickly is going to need to like really stay in his space. You know what I'm saying? Not allow him to create space, but stay in his space. Hopefully, it makes it tough for him to get into a shooting motion. That's when they're going one on one. When he's going one on one. Now, he's not going to go one on one the entire game. He'll be coming off some screens. They'll use a lot of pick and roll action and things like that to get Zach Levine free. So it's not always going to be Emmanuel Quickly. Sometimes it'll be RJ Barrett, or it might be Mitchell Robinson. It might be Julius Randle, right? That has to step out and guard Zach Levine. Same thing with DeMar DeRozan. But I agree with you. I think Zach Levine definitely has not just the size advantage over Emmanuel Quickly, but his when he jumps and he elevates, that gives Zach Levine another advantage, which he probably has over Quentin Grimes as well. But Quentin Grimes is 6'5", plus he moves his feet better defensively than Emmanuel Quickly.
Yeah, and I think what we could add here, comparing Grimes's defensive abilities or task versus Quickly's, he has more weight, and sometimes just
Yeah,
that.
just that.
You
Right?
know, sometimes Levine will look for the contact, and moving a guy like Quickly is way easier than moving a guy built like Quentin Grimes.
Right.
So I think that's also a factor, and some NBA players, even overall basketball players, they don't do so well if they can't get that first easy step or elevate, when they clear a little bit space. And when you have a strong defender, that's way harder to do
Yeah.
than having a little bit skinnier guy like Quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And, having a guy like Quickly out there, I think Zach Levine, he can post up a little bit too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if Emmanuel Quickly is indeed starting tonight because Quentin Grimes is out, you may see you may see more double teaming on Zach Levine tonight, as well as DeMar DeRozan if he's switched on, quickly switches on to him or whatever. You may see a little bit more double teaming from the Knicks tonight than they did in the first two matchups. Because there is a bit of a mismatch there with Zach Levine and Emmanuel Quickly. RJ Barrett and DeMar DeRozan is probably the matchup of the night, right? RJ Barrett he played very well against the Bulls over the previous two games, and I'd be looking at this and thinking that DeMar DeRozan, I don't know how much DeMar DeRozan is one of those guys that holds a grudge like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, stuff like that. I don't know if he's that kind of a player, but you would think that in his mind he's like, I really don't like the way I performed the last game we played when the Knicks demolished them. I'm coming out here to get mine and show off tonight. And plus with everything that's going on with the Bulls and people speculating that DeMar DeRozan may want to trade. I think he came out he spoke a little bit about that and whatnot. There may be a little bit of extra motivation behind DeMar DeRozan. How do you think this matchup goes tonight?
Awesome. Like you said, I think this matchup is really good for the Knicks. Maybe not really good because we know that DeMar DeRozan, if he's having a good game, he can score over anyone, right? But I think just the situation that RJ was looking and looking at DeRozan's game when he was growing and trying to practice to get to the NBA. That means plenty of things that DeMar DeRozan does RJ already knows.
Mhm.
And I think it's a way easier situation to guard a guy like that, that you know his tendencies, you know his moves, you know his skill set a little bit more just from the scouting report.
Right.
And I think that's why RJ Barrett has a little bit of an edge over DeMar DeRozan. Not only that he's younger because he's less experienced, right? But I think last couple of games, RJ overallly picked up his game. He's shooting way more efficient. He's making baskets. So, we should be happy with that. But like you said, I'm not sure that DeRozan is such a guy that he holds grudges or he's gonna look for vengeance versus RJ Barrett. I think he's a vet in the NBA. He's on a great path to probably maybe end his career with even with the Bulls. I don't know if he's 30 couple at least. So his game is gonna regress. Question is if this is the year it's gonna regress, or it was just a matchup situation for him, or the Bulls, inside the locker room situation is affecting him so much. We know that. I think he was one of the players that came out and said that he
Right.
had mental issues, mental problems with depression and stuff like that. Maybe he just doesn't want to be around negative energy.
Right.
And that's why, I wouldn't be surprised if he would ask for a trade. Listen, he won his games in the NBA. If he would like to win a championship, probably, right? But it's not given for every player in the NBA.
Right.
So
Right. Against DeMar DeRozan, RJ Barrett in 2 games versus DeRozan this season. Obviously, the Knicks won both. RJ Barrett's averaging 24.5 points per game. He's shooting 45.9% from the field and 58.3% from the three-point line this season against the Chicago Bulls. Hopefully, he continues that type of play against the Bulls. DeMar DeRozan against the Knicks so far this season hasn't fared as well. Well, in the first game he did, right? DeMar DeRozan killed the Knicks in the first game. Didn't play as well in the second game, but he's averaging 23 points, shooting 43.8% from the field, barely shooting any threes. He's 0% from the three-point line against the Knicks. Obviously, from the free throw line, he's shooting 94.7%, 9.5 free throw attempts per game versus the Knicks in those 2 games. But so far, obviously, RJ Barrett's won the matchup because the Knicks have won the games, but especially in that second matchup, RJ Barrett won that matchup. This should be a good one to watch tonight, I think. RJ Barrett's feeling good about himself. He's been playing well, over the last, however many games he's been playing pretty well. As a matter of fact, during the win streak, RJ Barrett, his game finally elevated. Right? It wasn't, superstar status, but over the last 9 games, RJ Barrett, 22.7 points per game, 46% from the field, 37% from three. Right, so he's elevated his basketball game over the last 9 games. Hopefully RJ Barrett continues. Obviously, you know what Julius Randle's doing, 25.8 points per game, 46% from the field, but only 30% from three. So over the last 9 games, 11.7 rebounds per game. Jalen Brunson really had a clunker against the Toronto Raptors as far as scoring is concerned, 5 points, but he did have 12 assists, averaging 18.9 points per game and 6.3 assists over the last 9 games. So, guys are playing well. What are you thinking about? And we'll get to these other matchups in a minute. But what are you thinking about the Brunson, Quickly, and Barrett? I mean, Brunson, Randle, and Barrett trio.
Well, Sim, I'm not totally happy about how the Knicks offense looks.
Okay.
I think we play a little bit too much. We can call it hero ball, ISO ball, whatever. Until we get doubled, we basically don't move the ball. And this goes even to Jalen Brunson, this goes to RJ Barrett, and this goes mainly to Julius Randle. But then again, no, I think fans maybe don't put so much attention to it because we're getting W's, right? And since it's working, you don't try to make it, play it different, make adjustments and stuff like that. But there are games like the Raptors game where one of the trio,
Mm-hmm.
and this situation was with Brunson, had a really bad game because 5 points for him. I think on a bad night, if he had 10, we could have had that game won,
Right.
right? So, I think if we would be moving the ball, and this might be the situation that Grimes wasn't there. He now in the latest win streak, he was averaging, I think, like around 14 points per game. So, and I'm not saying that that was only Grimes points that were missed, because quickly chipped in, and he had a really efficient game. So I was happy about that, but I still think that the main three offensive, pieces in RJ, Jalen Brunson, and Julius Randle, they need to play a little bit differently, try to share the ball more, incorporate 2-man, 3-man games instead of trying to get the double team on themselves and then move the ball. I
Right.
think that's the game that might work in the regular season, but come to the playoffs and regulars matchup that you got to win 4 games, we're going to be really easy to defeat and defend. And I'm happy about the 8-game winning streak. I'm happy about the result that the Knicks are currently in the standings and with the winning record and stuff like that. But I still see places to improve on the offense. On the defense, since we went to the 9-man rotation, inserting Grimes and McBride to the rotation, I don't know if I can ask for more. We're one of the top teams in the league, so
Yeah. I mean,
that would be really looking for a hole in a whole thing,
right.
right? So
Right. I think, over the last 9 games, the Knicks have the best defense in the league
yeah,
over the last 9 games. Their defensive rating over the last 9 games. Let's see. Let's pull that up. The Over the last 9 games, the Knicks have a defensive rating of 101.6. That's number one in the league. Number one in the league. Now, for the season as a whole, the New York Knicks are ninth in the league in defensive rating at 110.8. So that's still, that's still good. A top 10 defense, and currently playing like the best defense in the league. You know what I mean? We'll see if they can continue to play that type of defense versus the Chicago Bulls. Julius Randle, he's been playing well against the Chicago Bulls. Especially when Alex Caruso wasn't harassing him. Right? He's been playing well. No Alex Caruso tonight. He's out. How do you see Julius Randle playing tonight versus Patrick Williams?
well, I think the first game, Patrick Williams, who had a good game offensively, and a good game, I mean that he was stretching the floor for them. He was making those 3-point shots. They didn't go enough, as for my taste for him. So I'm happy that the Knicks had that leeway that the Bulls literally gave them, right? But we know that Randall has a problem defending stretch fours.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not going to use him, so that's not a big thing to try to fix. Meanwhile, listen, Julius Randle is also playing great basketball. He for me, and I remember you saying this like maybe from the first season that Julius was playing on the Knicks, that he needs to make faster decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and we see that change happening before our eyes. Uh, he's looking to dribble the ball, but he's looking to dribble it in the paint and like trying not to stop and go
Right.
to the ISO game, right? But late in the games, we see situations when we revert to the ISO ball, hero ball game. And I'm happy that he's not trying to take all the shots. He's trying to spread the ball and move it. But I think that we could do it from the first minute of the game. We don't have to go to that last minute stretch to try to make those adjustments, right? Like I said, I see offensive, room on the offense to improve, but I'm happy. Like, listen, how can you be mad at the Knicks when they have, like an 8 game winning streak,
Yeah,
right?
we got
So,
a
so
winning
it's
streak,
like
right? It's hard.
pointing out, things that could be done better, but you got to be happy with it. So,
Yeah, and I don't think this team has fully found their way offensively.
yeah, definitely.
They're still trying to figure out how they work with each other. It's getting better. You can see some of the chemistry coming together, but they're still trying to figure out how they work together. And that's why the defense is so important at this time. Earlier in the season, the defense was terrible and the offense wasn't coming together. So it just looked like, man, this team is going to be bad. But once the defense started to come together, and hopefully it remains this way, they can at least rely on the defense to get the job done while the offense is still figuring some things out.
Yeah. Or to just keep them in the game, right? Because
Right.
sometimes just being in the game, and in the last 2-3 minutes you can have a lucky possession, a good possession, and then you go up, right?
Right.
And the other team might scramble and lose the ball. So the, just being in the game is really important for me.
Yeah.
I rather see those kind of games than blowouts one way or the other even.
Right.
So
Right. And then Mitchell Robinson, man, versus Vucevic. Mitchell Robinson has been a demon during this stretch. Offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding as well. Mitchell Robinson has really been playing excellent basketball, and he's learning how to defend, some of your more skilled centers in the league. Without fouling, every time he's on the floor. He's learning how to do it. Mitchell Robinson versus the Bulls in these first two games is averaging 7 points, 9.5 rebounds per game, 5 offensive rebounds, 4.5 defensive rebounds, 1.5 blocks per game for Mitchell Robinson. But the offensive rebounding, Mitchell Robinson, when he's on the floor, when he's not in foul trouble, when he's on the floor, in crunch time, he always comes up with a big offensive rebound. He comes up with some big ones and he kicks it back out and gives the Knicks the chance to score again. You know what I mean? And, I can't, especially through this 9-game stretch or, the 8-game winning streak, I can't count the number of times that Mitchell Robinson saved the possession for the Knicks and came up with a big rebound, offensive rebound to give the Knicks another chance to score, and then the Knicks scored off of it. He's really been great at doing that against Toronto. He didn't play down the stretch. He was, I guess he got kicked in the leg or something like that. Maybe he was a little hobbled. I'm expecting him. He's not on the injury list, so he's going to play tonight. I'm expecting him to, give us a Mitchell Robinson type performance. 10 points, 10, 11, 12 boards, and a bunch of offensive boards. What's your thoughts on Mitchell Robinson versus Vucevic? Because Vucevic, he's done his thing against the Knicks.
Yeah, Vucevic is an interesting player, but he has, and I think he's also affected by the bad locker room situation that the Bulls have, because we saw him on causing problems versus literally every team in the NBA if he had a good situation around him.
Right.
And I think him being the third option on the team, I'm not saying that he's a second option or first option on a winning team, right? But I still think that he's a capable scorer. He's a really crafty player under the rim, great footwork for a big man and stuff like that. He can stretch the floor even casually, right? But I love how Mitch Robinson was defending him in the first two games. One game, Vucevic was, when he was trying to get hot, Mitch got a block or was tight on the defensive end and got those rebounds. So I'm happy about that. Then again, attributing the offensive rebounds for Mitch, I'm gonna maybe not like take away those offensive rebounds from Mitch's account, but I really think that's the huge part of that, those offensive rebounds, is Jalen Brunson breaking down the defense of the opposite team and taking,
Okay.
trying to, like getting that help defense from the big man versus Brunson. Then, Mitch sees the open lane so he can easily crash the boards. And previously, we didn't have a point guard that can, collapse the defense and try to take the mid-range game. When Alfred Payton years back was playing, you could leave him an open lane and you would know that he's going to dribble out the ball the other side of the hoop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't a threat. Meanwhile, Jalen Brunson is going to take every open shot, and if it's not open, he's going to look for contact, do that fadeaway shot he's going to try to make it. Not to mention that nowadays, RJ plays a great pick and roll game with Mitch, so he knows when to cut to the hoop to get that offensive lob, and you can see and feel that Mitch is hungry to crash those boards because he has way more open lanes because the defense is a little bit collapsed move, and his guy is not only looking for him and trying to feel him out to box out, right? So I think that's why we see so many offensive rebounds from Mitch Robinson.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully that continues. I think that's a really good breakdown, though, about why we're seeing those offensive rebounds. Hopefully it continues. Vucevic, he's been averaging 14 points over the first two games versus the Knicks, 14 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. The Bulls, a desperate team, ladies and gentlemen, coming into New York. I think they've won their last two games, I believe. The Chicago Bulls, yes, they've won two in a row. They're now 13-18. They are currently in the 11th seed in the Eastern Conference. They're 13-18 on the season. I think I just said that, 13-18 on the season so far. 0-2 versus the Knicks, though. So we will see how that works tonight. Now, if Emmanuel quickly is elevated into the starting lineup, because Quentin Grimes is out, again, the New York Knicks bench is going to look a little bit different. Versus Toronto, Tom Thibodeau decided to go with Derrick Rose in lieu of Evan Fournier or Cam Reddish. I expect that he would probably do the same thing tonight. I didn't think Derrick Rose played very well, right? But obviously he hadn't been playing in a while. But I wouldn't expect, for all intents and purposes, Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier, it's like they're no longer on the basketball team, in my opinion, right?
I agree.
So I would expect Derrick Rose to play tonight versus the Chicago Bulls. So you got Derrick Rose, Miles McBride, Jericho Sims, and Isaiah Hartenstein coming off the bench for the Knicks. And for the Chicago Bulls, their bench is a little bit short because Kobe White, you would think he's going to be elevated into the starting lineup since Alex Caruso was out, and obviously Lonzo Ball is not there. So you got Ayo Dosunmu, Andre Drummond, and then you got Terry, right? So their bench looks a little bit light. I don't know, maybe, if they call somebody up or if they have somebody else that they could pull out to play, but their bench looks like it could be a little bit light. But so far, the benches versus each other, the Knicks bench versus the Bulls this season so far, 20.5 points per game, 16.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 4.5 steals, just about a half a block a game, 4.2 turnovers. They haven't shot well, 34% from the field and 25% from three. The Bulls bench, 30 points versus the Knicks, 15 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and they're shooting well, 52.2% from the field and 36.4% from three. Now, you take Kobe White off the bench, put him in the starting lineup, that changes things, right? But what do you expect? And I tell you, even during the 8-game win streak, the Knicks bench wasn't scoring a lot of points. But they were the number one defensive bench in the league. You take Emmanuel quickly off, and you don't have Obi Toppin out there. I don't know who you expect to start scoring unless D Rose can have a have a flashback or something. But D Rose, even when he was playing before he was taken out the lineup, he wasn't really playing well. He played well for a couple of games, but towards the end when he came out the lineup, he wasn't playing that well. What's your thoughts about the bench units?
Well, Sim, for me, the bench factor, what I at least, noticed watching the games, like you said, maybe they weren't the perfect offensive bench, maybe on a hot night, right? But on the worst days, they were playing great defense, and I attribute that defense to playing both Hartstein and Sims at the same time because they could clear the boards. There were no
Mm-hmm.
second chance points. They were getting back fast on the defense. So there wasn't fast points and second chance points. That's literally half of the offense that the opposite bench has, because most of the benches don't play like the starters. They try to play a little bit faster because it's an
Mm-hmm.
easier way to play the basketball game, right? And what we gotta remember that Tibbs uses his starters plenty of minutes. It's around 35 or even more for the couple of guys. So you literally have the bench squad, and I in the 9-man rotation, you don't have five guys from the bench, right? So you always have a starter or even two on the court with the bench guys.
Right.
So I think meshing those, that kind of play, with the rotations and stuff like that, I think that's also one of the key factors that the Knicks had that winning streak. So adding, two big men to get the rebounds, sometimes of course that, opposite benches came back and took over the lead even. But I still think that's only a couple of minutes in game that Tibbs had to look at that and try to make adjustments when you clearly see that the team was losing the lead or losing points compared to what they scored, right? So I think the defense maybe wasn't the defense was great. The offense could be better, but what could you expect from a guy like Hartstein and Sims as a big man? They can catch a lob here and there, but they're not offensive threats. They can't create for themselves. Hartstein showed a little bit of passing ability last couple of games, right? So I was happy with that. But the rest of the squad, without Obi there, quickly has no guy to pass. McBride, he opened up his scoring at least because at the beginning of the season he was taking shots, but he was really missing them. I still don't see him though as as a threat on the scouting reports for the opposite teams. So
Yeah.
they just gotta pull out a couple of minutes, plug in, and try to wait the game out for till the starters get back.
Right. 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 And listen, over the last 9 games, the Knicks bench has the fourth best defensive rating in the league. The bench, all right, that's
Yeah.
48.1. Number one is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number two, the Toronto Raptors, which you've seen why. And then number three is the Miami Heat. Are you nervous when Obi gets back that, let's say, Quentin Grimes gets back, Obi is back, Emmanuel Quickly is back on the bench. So you take Rose out, and obviously, Rose isn't making the team that much better defensively, but you take Sims out most likely when Obi comes back. Are you worried about now the bench's defense not being as good? Because
Oh,
I
the
would
defense.
think it's better
Yeah.
with Sims in there than Obi.
Yeah, on the defensive side, of course, it's going to be better with the current setup. But I think putting back quickly on the bench, you're going to be able to have a drop down on the defense because you're going to have a great scorer, maybe not great, but a capable scorer with that second unit. And like we mentioned, in a 9-man rotation, you still got to have at least one starter with those guys.
Right.
And
Right.
we noticed that RJ Barrett was the first guy to get benched, and then he's playing with the second unit.
Right.
So I think that's one of the cases that the defense may drop, and is probably gonna drop because Obi Toppin is not a perfect defender, but he's gonna be I think Tibbs is gonna wait, losing the defense and adding a little bit of offensive threat
Right.
with the bench unit. And I think that's the team that they built for him. So I think he has to go that way.
Yeah. Any chance? I don't think it'll happen because there's clearly a hole at the wing position for the second unit, right? It's clearly a hole there. That's the reason why R.J. Barrett is the one who plays with that second unit. Any chance you see Jericho Sims stay in a rotation and Obi play the 3 in that second unit?
I think we would have to see that in like late game situations, meaning like in blowouts, one way or another. I think Tibbs needs to see that rotation, that lineup work for him
Mm-hmm.
to use it more. I don't
Right.
see it like okay, Obi's back, so now we switch to a 10-man rotation because I like Sims with Hardstand. Obi's going to play the 3, and then you have McBride in quickly. You're going to have length at the 3 big positions, but the 2 smaller, the guards are going to be really small because Quickly and McBride are small players. So we know that Tibbs needs to see something for a longer time to try to use it.
Right.
Obi coming back, I don't think if he's going to play Obi, I think Sims minutes get really cut, and then he's switching defense for offense. If that's not going to work, I wouldn't be surprised if Obi's minutes get trimmed, and playing Sims. Because if that happens and you get W's and then you plug in Obi and, increase his minutes and you're going to get L's,
Right.
the
Yeah.
recipe is straight up, laid out for you. So,
Yeah. Because you're looking, Obi should be at least reevaluated within the next few days, right?
yeah.
Maybe sometime after the Christmas game, he's going to be reevaluated. And then they'll take a look at whether or not he can return. Then, knowing the way Tibbs operates, he'll want him to get a practice or 2 in, make sure his conditioning is up, and then he'll look at bringing him back on the floor. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think that he comes back and Sims goes back to the bench. But if the Knicks let's say they go on another 5-game or 6-game win streak, and it's like, hey, this team has just won 13 of the last 14 games or something like that, and it's almost time for Obi to come back, you got to think long and hard, like, do we mess with this? Do we just say, hey, you know what? You got to wait your turn again now or whatever.
And Sim, listen, if you watch Obi's defensive game closely, you can see that it's a little bit better than last year, but the principles, he really has lapses. Like really, we know that RJ has lapses, but Obi has lapses like he's a high school kid around NBA players. He can forget who he's guarding. So and Knicks fans, probably don't see that much. I saw a great video. A guy broke down the Knicks defense and that they're the changing style, the 9-man rotation stuff, and said why Cam and why Obi's minutes were cut short because he got injured.
Right.
By why Cam went out of the rotation. He pointed out clearly what Cam was doing bad on the defensive end. And when you watch that video, you're like, oh man, you love Cam because you know that he has the talent, he has the physical attributes and stuff like that. But he was caught, sleeping and bad rotation. And you see, and he like played 3 plays with the starters, and then he played exactly same play versus the Knicks defense, and Cam was making the mistake. They defended those 3 plays, and Cam made a totally different read, and the opposite team scored. And we know that Tibbs is looking through the game like 3-5 times, so he sees that, and that's why Cam is not in the rotation.
Right. Yeah. 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 That's something, man. The matchup, the team comparison between these 2 teams, ladies and gentlemen, and this is broken down when you see the records. It's versus one another. All right, the Knicks are 2-0 against Chicago. Obviously, the Bulls are 0-2 against New York. The Knicks have averaged 121 points over 2 games. The Bulls 105. The Knicks dominating the glass, 49 rebounds per game over these 2 games. The Bulls 35. 22 assists for the Knicks, 25 for the Bulls. The Knicks with 10 steals per game over these 2 games. 4.5 for the Bulls, 4.5 blocks for the Bulls, 3.5 blocks for the Knicks. 15 turnovers for the Bulls, 15 turnovers for the Knicks, 16 for the Bulls. The Knicks only shooting 44.8% from the field. The Bulls are shooting 50.9% from the field. The Knicks 44.9% from 3. The Bulls 36% from 3. The Knicks 75% from the free throw line, and the Bulls 86%. But where there's really a big difference between the Knicks and the Bulls in these 2 games so far, the Knicks have taken an average of 91.5 shot attempts per game, making 41. All right, that's your 44.8%. The Bulls, they've averaged 80 shot attempts per game, making 41. Right, average, making 41. Right, so they're making the same number of field goals in the game. But here's the difference. The Knicks are making 17.5 threes per game versus the Bulls, while the Bulls are only making 10.5 threes per game. The Knicks are making an average of 21.5 free throws per game, and the Bulls are making an average of 13 free throws per game. And what's crazy is the first game, DeRozan, the Knicks had trouble keeping him off the line. In the second game, it was very, very different, right? But the Bulls have had trouble keeping Julius Randle off the line, right? But that's where you really see the difference in the game. 17.5 3-point field goals made per game versus the Bulls for the Knicks. 21.5 free throws made per game versus the Bulls for the Knicks. And the Bulls, 10.5 3-point field goals made per game versus the Knicks, and 13 free throws made per game versus the Knicks. That's really where you see the difference in the game. Even though the Bulls are shooting well, they're just not making enough threes, not taking or making enough threes, and they're not, really getting to the line besides DeMar DeRozan. Can the Knicks repeat this type of performance against the Bulls, especially without Quentin Grimes there, do you think?
Well, Sam, I'm going to add that, looking at the rebounding numbers, we have 14 more rebounds than the Bulls, right? And we got 5 more steals. So that's almost 20 possessions and 20 shots that the Knicks can, take more than the Bulls. And hence goes those numbers that you just read. The other thing is, I see in the chat that people are saying that Quentin Grimes is available, so he probably will start versus the Bulls, and that's making me gonna sleep a little bit calmer, so I don't have to think what Zach LaVine is gonna do to the Knicks, and he can still go off, but I'm gonna have a better sleep knowing that Quentin Grimes is gonna be available for tips.
Okay, well, on the official NBA report, he's still questionable. So I don't know if maybe the Knicks put something out to say he's available. But as of right now, on the official NBA report, they still have him down as questionable.
Yeah, I think they said that Vogue or someone on ESPN said that he's going to be available. So.
Yeah, the Knicks just tweeted out 7 minutes ago that Quentin Grimes is available to play. So that means he'll be starting. And yes, definitely that makes me feel a whole lot better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to change that in the scroll above that Quentin Grimes is available to play versus the Chicago Bulls. And obviously it changes everything when you talk about the starting lineup, and the bench, right? Because Emmanuel quickly can go back to the bench. Quentin Grimes could start, play defense on Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, better switchability in the starting unit, more scoring off the bench with Emmanuel quickly, and that'll make a big Big difference in tonight's game, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So that's good to know. Really good to know. I'm glad to hear that. What is your take on tonight's game? Knicks get the win?
Yes, I'm just, expecting a win. I think it's going to be probably, around at least 15 points for the Knicks. So that those around 120 to 105. I would be happy with that result. I would be even happier if they could keep the Bulls under 100, because that's something that I really pay attention to. In today's NBA, keeping a theme under 100 makes your defense like really look great.
Right.
Even if you average like the average versus you like 105,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same if they average even 99.7. It's that triple digit is way worse than that double digit, losing points. So I
Yeah.
would love them to keep the teams, under 100. That means, the offense doesn't have to be so perfect to get a W.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's going to be a hard one. I think the Knicks get the win, but it's not going to be easy. At least I'm not expecting it to
Yeah.
be easy. But you know what? The last time the Knicks played the Bulls, I didn't expect them to shoot as, the Knicks shot 52% the first time they played the Bulls from the three-point line. And then I think the next game they still shot like 38, 39%. So they still shot it really, really well. I'm hoping that they're going to come out and shoot the same way tonight versus the Bulls. I'm not expecting a blowout. I think it's going to be a tougher game tonight, especially with what the Bulls are dealing with, the adversity that they're dealing with. I think it can go one or two ways for the Bulls. Either the adversity can tear them apart and they just get smacked, or the adversity brings them together and they play a really, really tough game tonight versus the Knicks. They're 2-0 in their last two games, the Chicago Bulls. So since they've lost to the Knicks and got blown out by the Knicks, the Chicago Bulls are 2-0 since then. And they may be looking at this game as, just confirmation that, yeah, you know what, we're back, we're on the same page. Now we can come back and beat this team. So the Knicks got to be ready to ball tonight. They can't mess around. They can't, they don't want to now all of a sudden be on a 2-game losing streak after going on an 8-game win streak. They want to get right back on that winning track, But ladies and gentlemen, I do want to make sure that I announce to you that we have tickets for sale, and there's links in the description of the video. All right, number one, we have the Knicks versus Raptors on Martin Luther King Day. All right, it's $130 per ticket. Seat 200 section 225. All right, really good tickets. So make sure you grab those tickets. There's not a whole lot of them, so make sure you grab those tickets right now and join NBKFam on Martin Luther King's Day. All right, it's a matinee game. The game begins at 3 p.m. And then you have the Knicks versus Wizards on January the 13th in Washington, D.C. Those tickets are, well, right now it's $165, but you'll probably get a little bit of a refund there because we're still negotiating the price. And I'm, fully expecting it to be lower than that. But we're just covering the basis right here from the beginning, and it'll be section 113. Really, really good seats. All right, right there across from the Knicks bench. So, section 113, you'll be able to look right across and see what's happening, what's going on. So make sure you get those tickets right now, ladies and gentlemen. All right, there's a link in the description of the video so that you can get those. And I know you still got Christmas gifts to buy, so go buy your Christmas gifts first and then come back and get those tickets and whatnot. But I hope that you're there. Would love to see you join us. Martin Luther King's Day in D.C. versus the Washington Wizards, ladies and gentlemen. And, before we get out of here, too, we're going to listen to a new J Boogie joint that I think, some of you guys, you guys will like it. It's a pretty dope song, too. So, just as we wrap up, make sure you stay tuned to listen to that. Andy, any thoughts about anything else that you want to add?
Yes, Tim. Like I said, it was a rough couple of days for me at work and stuff like that. I was happy, that I could join you. I want to wish you and the whole NBK fam a Merry Christmas. I hope I can be on a stream before the New Year to wish you guys a Happy New Year. So that I'm leaving the window open. Let's go Knicks. Let's hope that we get a W. And like you said, I heard the J Boogie joint. I love it. So you guys are definitely gonna enjoy it. And
Yeah.
listen, if you didn't buy those, Christmas gifts, you can always get those tickets.
That there you go. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't get, yeah, you can always get those tickets and boom, you got an instant gift right there. You know what I'm saying? But ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back on tonight for the post-game show.